All right, Chad Millman, CCO Action Network, all odds provided by FanDuel. All right, so I'm not gonna waste any time here because I'm gonna tell you the single best bet in the finals, NBA finals right now. And I feel so good about it. I may bet some of my real estate on this, and I am a bit of a tycoon when it comes to that. So here we go. Celtics plus 1.5 in the first half of game 1. If you look at overly rested teams, which the Warriors are, and they're inserting Peyton returns, Otto Porter returns, Andre Iguodala returns. So they add 3 players. They have this extended period off. I'm not betting the game. Boston will come in. Boston got enough days off. It's mostly a young team, guys going into their prime. Boston leads at half, game 1. Strongest bet of the entire finals. I will not hear any dissension on this, but what's your thought?
I love that you and I did not discuss this before we started the podcast. I have made 2 bets on the finals so far, and both of them will give you an indication of which way I am leaning, which, by the way, is the opposite of what a lot of models are doing right now. I have made a bet on Steph Curry at plus 420 on FanDuel to lead the series in average points and threes. And I have made a bet on the Golden State Warriors minus 1.5 in the first half of game 1.
Not great.
Not great. Well, it depends. Like, you could be right or I could be right. You're a real estate tycoon. You're a media tycoon. You are ascendant. I'm a guy who, has already sold his business that is based in sports betting and, spent my life doing this. So we can let the listeners decide which way to go. But I feel like I like the Warriors in game 1 overall at minus 3.5. I do worry late in the game, there is too much foul shooting variance. Whereas in the first half, I like the Warriors to win this game. There is less foul shooting variance in the first half. You're just not getting the fouls at the end of the first half. It's playing sort of the way the game is supposed to play out. I like the Warriors coming out strong, having had the rest, knowing the experience, knowing the importance of getting out early in games like this. Also knowing that what they do in the third quarter dictates how they do in a game. And I know they don't want to go into the third quarter needing to have a massive burst the way they have had in other games, because the Celtics are a better team than the teams they've played. So it will be harder to make that comeback. So I like the Warriors in the first half minus 1.5.
Yeah, Celtic fans are saying, listen, we won back-to-back game 7s. But Milwaukee and Miami, essentially, you defended one guy. There was one elite scorer on both teams. I was talking to, who was it the other day? An executive in the NBA, and he said, the problem facing Golden State is that because of their ball movement and players off the ball, a lot of your defensive strategies just don't work. So, and he said Jordan Poole, Steph Curry, Peyton, Wiggins, they have a lot of guys that can have quick first steps that can beat you off the dribble. He says, so they're hard to trap because they have a lot of guys. I mean, Draymond averages 6 assists a game. He's a catalyst. And he was just saying, a lot of things that work against everybody else. And his point was, look at the gap between Golden State and Phoenix. And we thought Phoenix was excellent. And you can really defend them. And there's real limitations. And Phoenix doesn't play well from behind because they don't shoot threes. He's like, it's hard to marginalize the Warriors. They do everything well. They're experienced. They manipulate the refs. They manipulate your traps. And that to me is the series. I said this. I think Boston could outplay the Warriors in 4 games, and the Warriors win the series in 5 games.
I like the Warriors in 6. I liked the Warriors, and I said this on the Favorites podcast and the Volume Podcast Network. I had 2 guys on, Jason Timpf, who hosts a podcast on your network, and one of our action analysts for the NBA. And they were both on the podcast telling me about why they thought the Dallas Warriors series could be more competitive than it was. All great logic, great reasoning. And when it was over, I'm like, this is great. It's Warriors in 5. And as soon as the series for the Celtics and Warriors was settled, I thought to myself, Warriors in 6. And what you're getting a lot of chatter about right now is that a lot of models like the Celtics, right? I've spoken to 2 or 3 guys, professional bettors, who have the models like in the Celtics. I've spoken to more professional bettors who are looking at the Warriors at minus 160 to win the series and loading up, just thinking, how are the Warriors not minus 200 in this? Because if you look at the Celtics offense, it's not as coordinated as you would think. And it's a lot of bull rush the basket. It's a lot of perimeter shooting around, or, perimeter shooting from the 3. And while defensively they're amazing, what you just said holds true. It's really hard to adjust against a constantly fluid Warriors offense. But also, like, I think there's recency bias on the Celtics winning game 7s and people giving them more credit for that instead of recognizing, dudes, if not for a Jason Tatum miracle last second layup against the Nets, you might not perform so well in that series. If not for Chris Middleton going out, you might not win that series. If not for Jimmy Butler getting hurt, you might not steal a couple games. So I am not looking at the Celtics thinking what you did in these multiple game 7 wins is heroic. I'm thinking you kind of let these teams stick around and didn't do what you needed to do to close them out and might have gotten some lucky breaks. So that's why I like the Warriors.
Yeah. They also, Steph went to college 3 years, Clay 3, Poole 2, Draymond 4. Wiseman played 3 college games. He struggled to adapt. Is that when you look at the college and pro experience, Steve Kerr is able to do so many things on both ends of the floor. The IQ of this team for the Warriors, it rivals all-time teams. I always thought the Heatles between Bosch and Battier and Allen and Wade and LeBron and Udonis Haslem, and you're like, that's a pretty smart team. There's a lot of games there. But I just feel like when I look at Golden State, it's very rare that a dynasty is underappreciated. But if not for falling apart physically against the Raptors, and if not for one jumper by Kyrie, what does this dynasty look like? Now, the Patriots dynasty, you can argue they could have lost every Super Bowl except the Rams, or they could have won every Super Bowl. The Warriors have actually gotten terrible breaks in the finals. Yeah. Bogut gets hurt. Draymond suspended. Curry hurt. Cavs win. I've never seen a team in a series fall apart like they did against the Raptors. So I think sometimes we look at this team and, they really invented the 3-ball avalanche, small ball. Intellectually, they're kind, not to be, it sounds so California smug, but they're kind of way ahead of everybody. And I think when you go into a series, they completely discombobulated Dallas's offense. And Dallas at the end of that series felt significantly better than Phoenix. And Dallas felt lost to me. I don't think Dallas ever figured out Golden State. I thought they could have swept them. And Dallas is mostly young. So I just think there's a bandwidth with the Warriors. It's very New England. You could literally, Damian Woody always tells the story when he was in New England. We practiced a trick play for 14 weeks. He was every effing week at practice. And then we used it in week 14. And we were like, it was one of those, he's like, a lot of teams practice it. They can't shelve it for 2 weeks. Like, they got to use it.
Right.
And he's like, we were just playing at a different level. He goes, we had card tricks other teams didn't have, and we could use them at any time because our team was so smart. And that's a long-winded way of saying, I think if these games are close, I don't think it's close. I think one team has the ability to really limit the other and trick the other and manipulate the other.
So you and I both agree, it sounds like, we like the Warriors to win this series. So here's a couple things to think about as a bettor. If you like the Warriors to win the series, then you got to think about, do you think Steph has the best opportunity to be the MVP. He's never won
Yeah.
it before. The MVP, as much as anything, is a narrative award. It's a great topic, right? You talk
Yeah.
about this like you are better than anybody at creating a tree of what a topic is going to be and then letting branches come off it. MVP in the NBA is a narrative award. People love to talk about it. And really smart people think about who the voters are, right? There's the TV contingent, there's the West Coast contingent, there's the beat writing contingent, there's the East Coast contingent, there's the people who have social media followings, there's the people who are hardcore beat writers, there's, all of that kind of stuff. So a lot of sort of MVP watchers think about the voting blocks when they're thinking about MVP. Same holds true for NBA Finals. It's a narrative award. Steph has yet to win the award. Now, the truth is, Steph in the finals has had a really hard time, right? Because people key on him defensively. And look, Draymond on the podcast with you has talked about like how important Steph is and the double teams he would get that allowed, Kevin Durant to sort of blossom in the finals. If you believe the Warriors are going to win, then you have to believe Steph will have a dominant series and that he wins the MVP. Steph's odds on FanDuel right now to be the MVP, they were at plus 120. Now they're about plus 105. So if you like the Warriors to win the finals, you could just as easily bet on Steph at plus 105 to win MVP and get better odds than betting the Warriors at minus 160. What do you think of that?
No, I think you're right. I also, who would he compete against in that space? Let's say Jason Tatum. But what the Warriors can do is send Draymond and Wiggins at Tatum. Marcus Smart's too inconsistent of a scorer. So I think the Warriors think, let Jaylen Brown beat us. We know Horford's not going to beat us. Marcus Smart's not consistent enough to beat us. Tatum, if you lower his efficiency, like Luka shot 48% against the Suns, 41% against the Warriors. So Spencer Dinwiddie, had he shot well in the series, could have been a problem. So I think the Celtics are like, Jaylen Brown's going to have a really good series, and that will take some of the steam out of Jason Tatum. Because I think Wiggins is so undervalued because he's really the rare number one talent. I mean, really is an incredibly twitchy athlete. But in this culture, he's not an essential core player. But yet, he was very disruptive to Luka because he can just go, you can put him right on Tatum and just say, he's such a twitchy athlete, he doesn't buy your pump fakes. Because he's so quick. He's so quick vertically. He doesn't buy your fakes. And so he's in your face when you shoot. He lowers your shooting percentage. And so the other thing that helps Steph is his primary rival in the MVP, Williams doesn't score, Smart's inconsistent, may end up being Jaylen Brown. And if it's close, nobody's giving it to Jaylen Brown. Steph's going to win it because we want Steph to win it.
But also you got to it's also two different teams, right? If the Celtics win it, Jaylen Brown could be a good bet. If the Celtics, it's going to be the whoever wins it, the player from that team is going to win. If the Celtics are going to win the series, Marcus Smart has to be perfect because he will, for the most part, the Celtics do switch a lot and the Warriors will try to get him into switches, but he will have to be on Steph. And if the Celtics win the series, it's going to be because they stopped Steph from getting hot, right? And that's Marcus Smart. So you could see a Marcus Smart at something like 30-1. It's dropped from 45-1 because people are coming in and playing a little bit of the narrative game and sort of the matchup game that you and I are doing right now. I think on the Warriors side, if it's not going to be Steph, the other guy to think about is Draymond because there's a great narrative. There's nobody more accessible than Draymond. Draymond during the finals will come on his podcast, will come on your podcast, will go on the TNT show, will say something in a post-game press conference that will elevate his status and make him a centerpiece of a conversation that complemented with the way he controls the pivot and gets the Warriors in the right position with his passes, plus his defense and rebounding. If the Warriors win and it's not Steph, I would put your money on Draymond.